Breaking news on a Friday. A new contract was just signed by a pivotal Steeler player. And we have more information regarding the Steelers quarterback situation and who is more likely to be playing and starting on Sunday versus the Falcons. Well, let's start off with the contract. Pat Freiermuth. I don't think we can say for sure he's going to be a one-helmet guy, but he's on his way there because he just signed a 4-year extension for $48.4 million. Cam Hayward, we know he's going to be a Steeler for life. Pat Freiermuth, he made it with this extension being signed that much more likely. I like the move. I thought if we're going to extend any player, I mean, even if you want to throw Cam Hayward in the mix, there was 3 players we were talking about, Cam Hayward, Muth, and Najee Harris. I actually thought Muth made the most sense because of where he's at in his career and how the tight end position ages out better than a running back. Like, if you want to talk about the 2 guys that are more in their prime between Muth and Najee, I think the tight end position ages better than running back. We've seen that time in and time out. And then Cam Hayward, he's just up there in age. So I thought Muth would be the most likely, or the guy that, if I had to pick between the 3, that's the guy that we should be giving a contract extension to. Now, as always, it depends on the number. If he was looking for top 3 tight end money, it's like, nah, let's not do that. But if we could find some type of happy medium where it makes sense for both sides, let's get it done. Especially because Muth's going into the last year of his contract right now, and we know what he's capable of. So if he was able to stay healthy for the full season here, Arthur Smith utilizes Muth like we expect him to, we might be talking about paying Muth up there with a Hawkinson and a Travis Kelce up in the $15, $16 million per year. So it might be smarter if Omar Khan and management gets the deal done before Muth goes off. Like, we get him more at a discount. But there's obviously risk there too because maybe Muth gets hurt again or maybe he never does fully live up to his potential. And that's the game you got to play whenever you're signing contracts and you're managing an NFL team. That's the name of the game. But if I did have to bet on a guy, I do think Muth is going to be a solid player for us throughout the course of this contract extension for these next 4 years. Because if you just look back at 2022, he showed you he's capable of being a top 5 or 6 tight end. You look at those receiving numbers he had, over 700 on the season. That was up there with the best of them. He could have arguably made a Pro Bowl that season as an alternate. I think there were 3 other AFC tight ends that were definitely better than Muth, but he was in that mix. We were talking about him being like top 5 or 6 in the league. But I think that's only scratching the surface of what he's capable of. Like, right there is a floor for Muth. 700 yards on the season. I think he can be getting up to 1,000. And we're talking about him being a perennial Pro Bowler with the likes of, a Kelce, a Kittle. And not necessarily from a blocking standpoint whenever you're talking about Kittle, but from a receiving standpoint, I don't see why not. You look at what he's had to deal with these last couple seasons with Matt Canada being the coordinator and also quarterback play being shoddy at times. For him to still put up 700 yards in 2022, now that says something. Last year, he was hurt, so the production wasn't as good. And maybe that's why the Steelers were able to get him for $12 million per year. Although, it's weird because if you're basing it off total production and maybe a recency bias of what Muth has done for us lately, maybe like 10 or 11 is more reasonable. But if you compare what Muth got to the market, and specifically when some of these tight ends got their deals, it's fair. I think it's very fair for both sides. Now, we still got to see what the guarantees are because that'll tell you something too. But if you look at Njoku, he's getting 13.6. Cole Kmet at 12.5. Dalton Schultz at 12. When Cole Kmet and Njoku got their deals, that was last offseason, they weren't putting up numbers as good as what Muth did in 2022. Neither of them eclipsed the 700 yards that Muth did. And maybe they had more touchdowns. I think they did have more touchdowns for certain individual seasons. So we're one more year into this. So you add another year. So obviously the salary cap goes up, inflation, that type of shit. We're able to get Muth for less than what Njoku and Kmet got. And I think at the time, Muth had an argument for being a better tight end than Kmet and Njoku, and they got 12.5 and 13.6. Now, again, I think Muth hurt his stock a little bit last year with the injuries and the lack of production, but he's right there, man. I think this is a very fair deal. Look at the other tight ends in the league. You're not trying to pay him Kelsey, Hawkinson, Kittle, Goddard numbers right now. Mark Andrews at 14. Ingram getting 13. He's overpaid. But then that next tier of Njoku, Kmet, Schultz, that's exactly where Muth should be. And then after Schultz, you have Fant. Muth's better than Fant. He's better than Fant. He's better than Taysom Hill. He's a better receiving tight end than a Dawson Knox, Hunter Henry. He's better than all those dudes. So I think it's a good move, man. I think it's a good move. I don't really have any complaints about it. Let's see what the guarantees are. I'm sure the Steelers would be able to get out of it after we got 2024 coming up this year, then 2025. After 2 years, I'm sure the Steelers could get out of it pretty unscathed. Half of it might be guaranteed. That would be my assumption right now. Now, the question is, does Najee get his deal? Out of the three that were due for the extension, up for an extension, Cam Hayward, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris. Najee is still the one that is left out. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the Cam Hayward deal, the Pat Freiermuth deal, those made sense. What does Najee want? Is Najee looking for the Ramondre Stevenson type of number? 9, close to 10 million. For the Steelers, I can understand why you would think that's a little too steep. Because we don't even know what the splits are going to be between Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. What if Jaylen Warren takes over the backfield? He's a better fit for Arthur Smith in this system. And depending on what happens at quarterback, like if Fields ends up starting week 1 and runs away with it, and him and Jaylen Warren are this like dynamic duo back there, we're going to be scratching our heads if we give Najee a $9-10 million per year deal and Jaylen Warren is the main guy. So I think in a way, it's smart for the Steelers to just wait and see. Don't get me wrong, though. Najee has earned that type of contract. It's just the running backs and what the market is right now. They get screwed over. It's unfortunate. But when you see guys like Ramondre Stevenson get paid what he did, Tony Pollard, I think he got $8 million this offseason. Najee deserves at least that. But I also get why the Steelers would look at a Najee and say, or at least question, are you even better than the other running back that we have on this team in Jaylen Warren? Are you better than him? So, why should we be eager to pay you top running back type of money? RB1 type of, fair RB1 type of money right now, when we're not even sure if you're better than a Jaylen Warren. We don't know exactly how you're going to fit in this Arthur Smith system. We don't know how you're going to age out, because traditionally running backs that get a certain amount of carry, certain amount of workload, don't age out the best in this league. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. It's just the nature of the running back position. I would doubt the deal gets done for Najee, but I didn't really expect the Muth deal to get done either. I don't think anyone was talking about it like it was a for sure thing. And, yeah, here we are, 2 days away from the season starting for the Steelers. And the Muth deal got done, and obviously our deadline for getting these contracts isn't when the NFL season starts, the new league season starts. It's when we actually play our week 1 game. So there is still time for Najee. There is still time. But if I'm the Steelers, I don't know if I'm trying to pay him more than what his 5th-year option is, really. If you look at it that way, I think his 5th-year option, just by adding another year, it would have been 6.8 or 6.9 million. We would have had him for 2025, just 1 year, 6.8 $6.9 million. We could have done that. We decided not to. So I don't know why the Steelers would add years to that, make it a multi-year deal, and then also up the number. So that's also another reason why I don't really think a deal's going to get done before week 1 with Najee and the Steelers. But Najee ain't sitting out. He's going to be there, and I think rightfully so. I don't think going the Le'Veon Bell approach is going to help him out and his future prospects for his NFL career. Not at all. You saw how that worked out with Bell. Best thing for him is to get in there, ball out, do the best he can, and then hit the free agent market. Because there are guys that have done good by doing, like, betting on themselves for one season. If given the opportunities, they were productive. James Conner is the one guy that came to mind, where the Steelers moved off of him, goes to the Cardinals on a cheap, like, one-year deal, prove-it deal, and then he earns himself a nice little contract. So Najee, that's probably the best path for you, because if you sit out, you're not getting any tape out there, you're not getting any production out there, you're just going to be tanking your value completely. So he's going to be out there. Obviously, he's been at training camp, he's been at practice, he's been here this whole offseason. He's not thrilled. He said that himself, that the Steelers didn't pick up his 5th-year option. But what can you do, man? What can you do? You got to have the mindset that this is a business and just keep plugging along. But now, let's transition to the Steelers quarterback situation right now. This is something I didn't expect to be talking about 2 days away from our Week 1 game. But with the news that dropped yesterday, Russell Wilson aggravating that calf injury again, we got to talk about it. Is Russ going to play? Or is it going to be Fields? Who's the Steelers quarterback going to be? These are all legitimate questions at this point in time. And where we left off yesterday, it was really Russ was limited in practice. Tomlin answered some questions. You had people like Chase Daniel out there on Twitter, former NFL quarterback, saying the calf injury or the calf is really important for a quarterback. So if you are injured or if you are limited, it's going to affect you in a big way. So that's really where we left off. And Russ was going to get it checked on today, and we would see how much he would practice and what his status might be for Sunday. So we did get that information. He practiced, but again, he was limited. He was doing individual work. And for the team stuff, Justin Fields, just like early in training camp, was taking all the 1 reps. Russ did get it checked on by the doctors. They said it wasn't as severe as they initially feared, but he's sitting out for precautionary measures. He's doing what he can so he can get ready for Sunday, but he didn't really give a straight answer if he expects to be the starter.
I saw yesterday that you were limited with calf tightness. You reported. Can you kind of walk us through what happened?
Yeah, I just felt a little tight. I just wanted to be smart about it. Obviously, play the game on Sunday. Hoping I get to be in it, obviously, but just trying to get ready to go.
So at this point, you're expecting to still start on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my body ready to go and rock and roll. So we're doing everything we can.
How much were you able to do today out there?
I just tried to focus on the throws. Really didn't try to do too much today. Tried to be smart, just knowing that we have all of today and tomorrow, and then obviously Sunday morning.
Did you do anything in team today, Russ?
Didn't do much. No, I did a couple things, but not much. And I'll be ready to go if I can go. I'm going to go and try to do everything I can to help us win. That's how I think about it. And if not, I'm going to do everything I can to help us win in that way too. So, but I'm going to do everything I can, as you guys know, to be ready to rock.
To me, that doesn't sound like a guy that expects to be out there on Sunday. I think when 1 o'clock hits, Justin Fields is going to be the Steelers QB1 down at the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to back down from my takes that I've been saying all offseason, and that Russell Wilson, I think, gives the Steelers a better chance to win compared to a Justin Fields. But don't get it twisted. We could still win this game and win multiple games if need be with Justin Fields. It just all depends on what we get from Justin Fields. And I think that's ultimately why we declared Russ the starters, because I think there's a lot of question marks of what performance you're going to get from Justin Fields on a game-in and game-out basis. If you're going to get the 2 games that you got from him last year where he threw for 4 touchdowns, if you're going to get that on a more consistent basis, forget it. Justin Fields should be the starter. But that really hasn't been what his NFL career has looked like, and that's not what his preseason performance looked like here in Pittsburgh. These 3 games, I think it's been just pretty much more of the same from Fields. Some inconsistencies, some ball security issues, some ups and downs, but leaving you wanting more, leaving you with more question marks than answers. Whereas with Russ, you at least got answers. You know what his floor is. You know that he's a steadying presence for whatever offense he's in. He's going to keep you in games throughout the course of 4 quarters with a chance to win it at the end. Like, that's the floor, at least, with Russell Wilson. And again, I think that's why the Steelers have him as the starter over Fields when everything's equal, when both of those guys are healthy. But with Russ being out with this calf, leaves the door open. It definitely leaves the door open, because if Fields comes out here and balls out regular season week 1, forget about that preseason shit. Forget about what he did in Chicago. This is a whole new scenario, a whole new team, fresh start. They say availability is your best ability. You look at what happened with Mason Rudolph last year. Kenny Pickett was out. Mason Rudolph balled out against the Bengals. That was the best our offense has looked over the last 2 seasons. We stuck with Mason. So you mean to tell me Fields versus Russ, we haven't seen either of them. We have no history of either of these guys as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Fields goes out there because we got to have Fields out there because Russ isn't available. He plays good. Let Russ's calf heal up an extra week or 2. Let's be patient on that. Let's see what Fields got for week 2. All right, he does it again. Let's see week 3. And then I think you say to yourself, you could look Russ in the eye and be like, man, we had every intention of starting with you, but look at what Fields has done. Look at this offense with Fields. We're going to stick with them the rest of the season. So what's crazy about this, as weird as it sounds, because I think the Steelers were 100% legit in naming Russ the starter. They had every intention of Russ being the starter and wanted him to be. But as weird as it sounds, I don't think they're stressing about having to put Fields out there in this type of situation, because it's a clean way to go about it. It's a clean way to see what the potential is for this guy who could maybe be your future. Was a former top 10 draft pick just 4 years ago. It's a clean way for you to get an answer on what he could be in a Steeler uniform sooner rather than later, as opposed to benching Russ right out the gate. Like, you know what I mean? Signing, because it would have been awkward if you sign Russ, every intention of him starting, being the veteran leader here and everything, but then at the end of it be like, hey man, you know, we're gonna go with Fields. You're gonna go to the bench. Like, that would have been awkward. I think Tomlin has too much respect for Russ to go that direction. But if Russ ain't healthy, you gotta go with Fields, right? So it would be a very clean way of seeing what Fields got, handing over the keys to Fields and starting off the season saying, this is your team. Let's see what you could do with the starters. Let's see what you could do for a full game being with the starters. No excuses. But also, if it doesn't work out, you could just go back to Russ, because it was always Russ's job. Fields was only out there because Russ was unavailable. So it's kind of weird. Like, I don't think the Steelers are stressing about this. In a way, they might low-key be excited to see what Fields can do right out the gate. Again, getting answers on him, a guy with that type of upside, sooner rather than later, while also having that pivot of going back to Russ if need be. If Fields doesn't work out, you could just always go back to Russ. And it's clean. It's not awkward. It's not like, oh, yeah, Russ, we said you weren't good enough, but could you come in here and save the season? No, it wouldn't have to be that at all. It's like, we have to have Fields out there because Russ your calf's injured, almost like at the beginning of training camp. We have to see Fields out there for the first 2 weeks with the ones, with Pickens and Najee and all them. We have to do that because, Russ, we don't want to risk injuring your calf any further. So I think the Steelers, I think we'll be fine with Fields. In fact, you look at what Fields did against the Falcons at the end of last year, and I know there's been some turnover in Atlanta, but I think for the most part, the defense is about the same. They added Justin Simmons, they added Matthew Judon, but I think for the most part, it's still the same defense. He went for over 300 total yards and 2 touchdowns, 268 passing and 45 rushing. Like, if you're able to do that on a consistent basis, you're the guy. No question about it. But we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, because who knows? I guess Russ could actually be starting. He could technically be starting for us week 1, but I don't think he is. I really don't. I don't. I think Fields is going to get a chance to prove himself right out the gate here, and we'll see if he makes the most of the opportunity. We'll see if he does. I think we just got to accept going in that we could get a lower floor with Fields. Like, there might be more ups and downs. But if he could get rid of some of the negativity, if he could get rid of some of that inconsistency, then he can make the case that he's the better quarterback for this team, not only for this season, but long term. The opportunity is right in front of him, potentially here. And if anything, this just makes the Kenny Pickett decision to not be here that much worse. Because holy hell, man, you could be sitting here like Fields being the starter for the Steelers. I know we brought in Russ and everything, and that didn't make you happy, but that would have been your competition. And with all respect to Russ, you should have looked at it and been like, bro, the dude's here on a 1-year contract. He's up there in age. It's not like the Steelers have invested anything of significance in Russ. He's here on a 1-year vet minimum deal. With him being up there in age, that increases his chance for injury and doesn't make his recoverability as good as what it was back in his prime. So, like, you might get a chance to start no matter what. Like, even if you lose the competition to Russ, you still have a very decent chance of starting this year, one way or another. Could it be Russ's poor play? Could it be him being injured? Who knows? But you got to sit and work while you sit and wait. But Kenny also could have had the opportunity to just beat out Russ in the offseason. I think the Steelers would have given him more of an opportunity than Fields, at least. But with him wanting out, going to the Eagles, he's firmly planted as the QB2 over there. Whereas here, man, yeah, he would have had a chance, just like Fields, to potentially start week 1 because of this calf injury Russ has been dealing with. So, see what happens week 1. We'll see what happens week 1. I got the Steelers winning either way. Either way. If it's with Russ, 27-17, well, now we're talking about Russ with a calf injury. Maybe I gotta bump us down to like 23-17. Yeah, maybe that's what I got for our score. 23-17, 24-17, something like that, whether it's Russ or Fields. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling. Peace.